Right, it is episode 2 of the Vinyl Collective podcast. Not with me today is my co-host Jonathan Reynolds.
Hello. Yep.
How you doing? Why are you so far
I'm
away?
good, thank you. As people might be able to hear, maybe in the difference in audio, we are not in the studio together today. I am at home doing this remotely. Corona times. It wasn't able to happen today. But yeah, I'm at home. I been listening to a lot of Little Sims this week, which is an ordinary week for you. But yeah, I've been listening to the Grey Area probably front to back. I would say since the weekend 10 times.
Oh gosh, that is quite a lot of time.
Yeah.
I can't say I've listened to it that many times over the past week, but I think I've done my fair share in 2019 with that album. So
Yeah. And I guess I've been going back as well. I know you know her catalogue a lot better than me, but yeah, I've definitely been going into Stillness quite a few times.
Yeah, good album.
And then the early EPs too. She will have her day. We said this last week, yeah. But we will talk about her.
Yeah, she definitely will have her day. I know the other day we had our FKA Twigs spotlight. She dropped her album last year. I think it was like a 4-year wait from her debut album LP1. So I actually have the vinyl one actually.
You do?
Yeah, I actually do. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, I got it last year while I was on a night out. Actually, yeah, it was one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was just like it was an impulsive. I knew I wanted to get it, but it was just a really impulsive. But I was like, you know what? Especially with vinyls, right? When you start buying a lot of vinyls, you realize how much money it costs to kind of get a lot of vinyls.
Yeah.
I think people get into the vinyl game, like, yeah, I'm gonna get all my favorite albums, and then you realize Reasonable Doubt, it's like £100. He's like, okay,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, no,
I'm not gonna lie. I was looking at it the other day because I don't have a turntable, but when I invest, those are the types of albums I'd want.
Yeah, like
I'd want that. I'd want like an original, like Illmatic or something. And I know they would be expensive.
Like some of them are like, I think it's just mainly the vintage ones, like the ones where like they actually came out when vinyls were a thing and they don't really make them anymore. So so it's literally like, it's a rarity. Those are usually the hardest ones to get, or just albums that are really, really popular. So like like A Good Kid, Mad City or whatever, super expensive.
Yeah.
But yeah. What did you think of that album last year, Magdalene?
Which one? Sorry.
FKA Twigs' album.
Oh, well, I mean, you already know how I feel about it. I think for me, Grey Area aside, I think it was the best album of the year. And it's weird to say because it came out right at the end of the year, like it was such a latecomer. I think maybe on second or third listen, I was pretty decided about it. It was just brilliant. Yeah.
No.
I think the future feature threw me off a bit. When I kind of read the song list and I saw that, I did not know what I was expecting. I didn't know what I was in for, but it worked for some reason.
No, I think that's like one of my favorite songs on the album. I remember a lot of the FKA Twigs purists were not happy about that. They were like, oh, why is Future coming? It's kind of like, why is Future kind of coming into space? And I was like, no, it actually worked pretty well. To be honest, it worked really well. I think I had it in my top 3, top 4. No, it's definitely a really good project. I think for me, it definitely did slow down near the end, so I couldn't put it over like Ari Lennox, for example. I think that album was just super
interesting.
Yeah. So in terms of like, because also my list is normally just hip hop and R&B, and I think I can't say it was the best R&B album that year, but it was very close, very, very close. And it, again, since we're talking about the vinyl, on the Vinyl Collective, it does sound great on vinyl, like proper really good, proper good record. So yeah.
I think also maybe people were surprised with the Future collab just because she's not a feature artist. Like she doesn't really collab that much. Like she's been on what I can think of maybe 2 albums she's appeared on. Like she was on ASAP's like testing album, wasn't she? She was on one of those songs.
Yeah, she's not really a feature artist, nor does she have a lot of features on her albums. So
no, she was on.
Yeah.
I know we both like the Heady One album.
Yeah.
I'm sure a few listeners will be fans, but she was on that, which was a great album.
Yeah, it just kind of shows like what like stead she puts Future on. Like she must think Future's like fucking sick. If like, I think that was the only feature, wasn't it? Fuck, it was.
It was the only feature. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So especially when artists do that, like if they have like if it's the only feature or that feature comes up in every album. So like for example, Rick Ross, he's on like almost every Jay-Z album, and obviously a lot of people think, oh yeah, Rick Ross is not that great, but Jay-Z loves him. Same way Kanye always had Kid Cudi on like most albums. So I always find it interesting when artists do that. So the only feature. Oh gosh, yeah.
Well, the same way the Jay Electronica album was, as you called it, a Jay-Z album.
Yeah. Oh, you talking about the Jay-Z album, mate? Yeah. Someone says that to me. I'm like, oh yeah, you're talking about the Jay-Z album because. Yeah. He didn't even get he wasn't even credited on like any of the songs as like features. It was just Jay-Z just mumbling or like talking or like just here's Jay-Z again. Wasn't expecting that. You know what? I don't have much to say about Jay Electronica because I can't take artists like that seriously. I mean, if you're gonna make people wait a solid decade, like not even 8 years and you're rounding it up.
You know, it was a decade.
It was a decade. And the thing is, 2020, I know 2020 has been a long year with everything going on, but does anyone even remember that album came out this year? Like, it's like it's just, if you're gonna make people wait that long, you're either coming out with like a double disc, maybe even a triple disc. I don't care. Like you owe like a Chris Brown album worth of material for 10 years, and to come out with something that's one, relatively quite short, and two, dominated by your label manager, then I can't take you seriously, mate. I think
the thing with that album too is that, as you said, you're waiting a decade for an album. Whatever happens is going to be a talking point usually. Like, you're either going to have loved it or you're going to have hated it, but it's just slipped under the radar, hasn't it? Yeah. Like no one's talking about it. Like, you had Chance. We've been waiting for that for a while. Yeah. People had things to say about it. It was shocking. And I know a few people out there probably listened to it and loved it and were like, oh, it was a good vibes. He's married. He's happy. I didn't like it. You didn't like it.
Mate, that's why there's a whole episode dedicated to that in the pipeline. Because
there will be.
It's not just good albums you got to talk about. You got to talk about the calamities as well. So, definitely have that one down the pipeline. Yeah, also just want to give a quick shout out to you guys. I think our first week was definitely a lot more surprising than, it was just very surprising that so many people tuned in, so many people had so many nice things to say. So yeah, thank you guys. Hopefully we can, bring out a lot more good content that you guys will enjoy. I know there's also an issue with it just being on Spotify, so now it's on all podcasting platforms that you can think of. Yeah, so you got Apple Podcasts, you got, I don't know, Google Podcasts, whatever, Overcast, whatever you use. If you're using something outside of Apple, Spotify, or Google, you're probably a savant of some sort. So yeah, anywhere you find podcasts, we're gonna be there. So stay tuned.
We'd love to the comments and suggestions from people too. Always good to hear people's suggestions and getting people discussing and talking about it too. I think interacting with people that are listening to it too is kind of cool. So that's why I think we'll talk at the end a little bit more, but that's why we're kind of looking to get the playlists rolling out that we talked about last week. Our account is now live, the Vinyl Collective. We'll kind of post links on our social media, but what we're doing there is we've got some playlists for the Spotlight series we had, where we kind of talk about different artists each week. This week was obviously FK Twigs. And then any kind of songs that we mention in the episode that we might have kind of brushed over, then you'll probably go and you'll find on our Spotify, we've put some of those songs on there so you can look back later.
Yeah, I think it was about surprising that people were like, I liked when you mentioned this artist in conversation. I was like, oh God, you guys actually kind of listen.
Yeah,
that was quite surprising. So it's definitely refreshing to hear that. And as always, I think I mentioned it last week, and it was a bit tongue in cheek. But yeah, if you do have any suggestions or questions or any playing topics, just send it to vinylcollectivepod@gmail.com. Like I said, who knows, might get right on the show, might just reply saying fuck you, just gotta take the chance, don't you? So yeah, yeah, should be, just keep engaging with us. We enjoy it, and I hope you guys continue to enjoy it. So yeah.
I guess with obviously we're not in the studio together today. We're kind of having to adapt to that situation. We've kind of talked about how, not on the podcast, but we've talked together about obviously music habits changing. So yeah, would you say your music habits have changed this year, especially since March? Yeah, what do you have to say about that, I guess?
No, for sure. Again, I think because of me, I always like to match music to my mood or whatever I'm doing. And obviously what everyone has been doing has dramatically changed in one way or another over the past, half year or so. So I used to have music that I listen to for commutes or in the gym, and then both of those things have gone. Or sometimes you just want to listen to music for a walk, and then obviously at some point that was gone as well. It's easy to forget how intense it was, where it's you couldn't really do anything outside the house, and then you may realize that I don't really listen to too much music inside the house. Because obviously I live in a quite busy household, so it wouldn't make sense to me just to be walking around with headphones on. But yeah, definitely has changed the way I kind of am taking the music, and I think it's definitely changed the way artists are approaching music as well, which is interesting. So I think because of this year as well, especially with the whole Black Lives Matter movement, you would have thought it's hard to kind of assess whether a lot of these changes are due to coronavirus or due to the protests going on and whatnot. But for me personally, I think for me it's definitely, I think the type of music that I'll be interested to listen to in the house is very small. So I think it's definitely put me off a lot of some of the albums that came out before that time that were pretty good. So obviously the Freddie Gibbs album that came out earlier this year, super good album. But it's very high energy, and I'm not, I don't have that energy when I'm in the house. So it's just one of those albums that I haven't felt to go back to as often, even though it's a good album. So I think maybe this year when I kind of do my end of year list, as I do, I think the list might look a bit weird compared to other years, because the whole my motivation to listen to certain albums has completely changed. So I think that's made a massive difference. What would you say? What would you say, John? Yeah,
I think obviously you mentioned the Alfredo album. I think another album that's obviously come out and was solely recorded during the lockdown was obviously Drop 6. And that had that kind of feel. I remember kind of listening to it the first few times. It has the, I don't know if claustrophobic is the right word, but it feels very, what's the word? Yeah, I feel claustrophobic. It feels like a pandemic album,
I think she would agree with you, to be honest. I think this is just a song where she's just talking about, how she spends the day cooking food, bidding her zoots, making songs. That's it. There's nothing else to do. She got out of mind. So no, 100% agree with you with that. And you also going the other way. So with Anderson Park dropped some Lockdown, and there's a lot of people making that same type of music. So I think I think the artists are definitely kind of making pandemic music in a sense.
Yeah, I'd say, I guess the lack of commute too. I know for me personally, working from home, there's no, a big part of my day was that transition music where I'm going into work, I'm listening to something a little bit more upbeat before I get in, and then I'm kind of in a mindset to work. But I guess at home it's just get up, breakfast, and I'm working already, and I'm going into some lower slower tempo music, something ambient instrumental. So I think that's definitely a big difference I've noticed. Mornings definitely more chilled type of music that I'm listening to. But what I would say is that because there are so many less visual, audible distractions, especially working out at home, things like that, I'm definitely listening to music a lot more, kind of the experience is a lot more intensified. I'd say the music experience is more immediate because I'm I'm not being distracted by things. I'm like listening more critically, and that's probably what we could like trace that back and say that's why we've had so many more conversations about music, and that's why we've now decided to have the podcast, because the experience of music is so much different.
No,
I don't know. What do you say?
No, I think that's a really good point, actually, now that I thought about it. Like, you just have to audit, because also your music, you normally use that as a distraction. That's how I use music as well. So I think when you kind of remove those distractions and you're just looking at the music, I guess how you view it, how you take it in is different. No, I fully agree with that.
I think also because of that, like the type of artist, like you were saying with the Alfredo, it hit immediately, but then you haven't gone back to it. I guess the artists that I've like really been drawn to this year are more of like the storyteller rappers, the like low key, like wordsmiths, like I know we're going to talk about Car at some point, but like MF Doom, like Rock Marciano, like the lower key rappers, I've definitely gone back to them again and again. I guess just a reflection of mood, really, isn't it?
Yeah. No, 100%. I think, because the way I think about it, it's like, I think the only kind of period I listen to a lot of music is in the car. So I think that's the only time where maybe there'll be something more upbeat. But yeah, I think it's a good thing in a sense, because, a lot of these lo-fi albums do get missed because I guess the hustle and bustle of everyday life doesn't really allow for you to kind of sit down and listen to what someone's saying. Music's gonna that time. So I guess it just kind of paves the way for other artists to kind of get their shine. So yeah, I'm not mad at that, actually. No,
yeah. And I guess like talking about our mood when we're listening to music, the type of music we listen to this year, like there's definitely a big relationship between like mood, emotions, mental health, and the music you listen to. So I guess like there's actually a study, I know that like the charity Mind, the mental health charity, people are probably aware of it. Like they've done loads of studies on like the relationship between like dopamines and like the feel good chemicals and stuff in your body that are released when you listen to music. So it's definitely a huge relationship between mental health, especially at the moment. We're all stuck at home. We can't really go out. Things are really monotonous in our lives. Like it can definitely kind of benefit you. What would you say about that?
No, I think there's definitely something to it. So we'll talk about like music and mental health, right? So I guess the question is like, what can music do for your mental health? Can it make it worse? Can it alleviate things? Can it be the therapy that you need? So I think the first one that I'm gonna tackle from what you just said is like, I think when it comes to moods and like the science behind things, I think music can only amplify any feeling that you already have. So I don't think it can make you, maybe for a really brief period, but I don't think music can make you feel something you don't already feel. So, for example, I don't think if you're sad, happy music can fully take you out of sadness. Like, let's say something's really happened. Let's say, your dog's died or whatever. I don't think it can make you happy. And I think same way, I don't think if you're really happy, sad music can just be like, like it has to be some really potent shit to do that. And I don't think, that's not most music. So I don't think it could ever pull you fully from like happiness into sadness. Because I know you do hear that discussion sometimes where people are like, it's not a popular narrative, but some people do say like, you listen to sad music all the time, you wonder why you're depressed. And it's like, no, I don't think that's the kind of like the cause and effect. I just think like if you are sad, kind of going to the other side of things, if you are sad, maybe it can amplify that sadness. So I guess so I think again, like reiterating what I said, that can only amplify what you already feel. So if you're happy and it's just happy music, it's just kind of boosting what's there. So, so like
that's it is. I think I'd like generally agree. I think when whatever I'm during the day. Like I go and put my headphones on in the morning. Like I think I'm doing one of two things. Like I'm generally speaking trying to like match my emotions, match the music to my emotions. You know what I'm saying? Like if I'm like, oh, okay, I'm kind of tired, I'll probably, generally speaking, I put on a music that matches me. But I do think there is that that kind of situation where music like creeps up on you, and kind of like brings, because music's so tied up with like, you know, memory, location, place. So I think when like specific music comes on that really like reminds you of someone or somewhere or like some situation in life, then it can probably alter your mood.
Yeah.
Would you say that?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think, again, I feel like that's kind of like a stars aligned moment, because, you know, you get those times where a song is so closely related to whatever you're feeling at that point in time, and you're like, fuck, and it really just, it's kind of that moment's like kind of overwhelms you, like, fuck, like, damn, that's me, like, that's me right there. And I think because you kind of realize, like, wow, what I'm feeling is real. If the moment an artist does that, right, it immediately just validates whatever you're feeling in that moment. You're like, fuck, so what I feel was real because someone else said it's real, and that might get you. And I think it's one of those things for me personally. I think in that moment, yeah, for sure, it's definitely going to kind of take me back, but I don't think it's enough for me to. It's not enough to kind of pull the needle the other way around and be like, okay, cool, I'm sad now, or stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I think especially like, I mean, obviously we were talking about the gym earlier. Like, there are specific playlists you go to change your mood, to try and like give you a temporary like adrenaline rush or whatever to do the run or whatever you need. But I do agree. I think with the exception of very few songs that really touch you, like you're going to music for affirmation, aren't you? Yeah. No.
That said, do you? I guess, I mean, we both use Spotify for our music, generally speaking. Not to turn off the Apple Music fans, by the way. But do you kind of like organize your music in terms of emotions, situations, like kind of parts of the day?
Yes. I mean, I try to stay on top of it. I'm not good at staying on top of my playlist, actually. But when I initially started making playlists, I did try to map it to like every possible emotion. And I mean, I think
I'm saying this because I've looked at your Spotify today. But go on.
Nice, yeah. So you probably tell, like, I think one thing I realized, this was years ago actually. So one thing you realize is that you can be you realize how specific each emotion you have is, and even though it's so similar to the next one, there is like a key difference, and that slight change will change the whole type of catalog you're going to listen to at that point. So so sometimes it's like, okay, you know, I'm feeling like a slow vibe tonight, but then the question is, how slow? Like, you know what I mean? And you have, I'm very meticulous like that, so I have like 2 different playlists for that and stuff like that. So it is a tall task. It is a very tall task, because I think once you get into it, if it's something that you know, if listeners at home, it's something you do try. I think once you get into it, you realize you have so many emotions, and it's kind of hard to find music that fully encapsulates that. So I think the way I've always been is that I try to just go for albums that generally fit the bill. So if I'm feeling a mood that's relatively like this, then I'll just listen to an album that, you know, most of the songs kind of cover that. I think it's just easier for me to go about my day. But and yeah, I definitely should put a weekend away just to kind of refresh my playlist, because I think those playlists are about 2-3 years old, and obviously a lot of music's come out in that time. Yeah.
Okay. I guess something else we were saying earlier, like what music does for you, whether it makes you happy, sad, like it definitely can help with like concentration and productivity, motivation. And I guess with that in mind, I don't know what your like office environment is like anyway when you're going into work, but like, do you see the benefit of workplaces allowing like a bigger place for music, like people to listen to music while they're working, that kind of thing? Does your office, for example, allow that?
I wish more offices did, because you know, it's an excellent way to just mind your business, and I think more offices should employ that, because there
Uh-huh.
there are times, right? Like everyone's been there where it's like, oh, you just want to listen to like something that just vibes out, and then maybe you're sitting next to your workmate or whatever, and someone's just talking at you, and you're just like, fucking hell, like I just want to kind of just get this done,
Yeah, yeah.
listen to something.
Hmm.
I think because again, because I enjoy the songs too much, because I only listen to music I enjoy, like most people. So if I hear a song I really like, it's too distracting for me.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but at the same time, I do want some sort of audio there. So what I actually do is just listen to podcasts. I listen to quite a lot of podcasts actually because of that. So when it's a thing where I do need some mental capacity to kind of do whatever task I'm doing at work or whatever, but I don't need all of it. Especially working from home.
yeah,
So I'll just slap on a podcast and take it from there. So I think that's one of the few times where music wouldn't help, because sometimes it can just be too distracting, because obviously all the songs, it's not like you listen to the radio. I mean, that's very different, because a lot of the songs
yeah,
are gonna come on you don't care about, but especially when you're on like your own like dedicated playlist, is too distracting, because every song's gonna be a banger, isn't it? So yeah, I just gotta stay away from it.
yeah. That's definitely one thing I like hate is radios in the workplace, or like they're like, oh, it's usually in those kind of startup environments, I reckon, where they have like, oh, we're going to have music on and everyone's going to feel good and motivated. But I don't want someone else. I know myself. I know how I work best. I don't want some guy from accounting choosing the music like for the whole office.
Do you know what that reminds me of actually? So I think this was 3 years ago when I was working in a supermarket, and it was during Christmas time, and I did not want to work there. I didn't want to work there, but you gotta do what you gotta do. You already know what it's gonna be. So obviously during Christmas time, and obviously this particular store, they just play Christmas music for the whole month of December. The whole month of December. So I remember every single day. And the thing is, it got to the point where I knew exactly what time the music was gonna come on. I knew exactly what it was the same playlist every single day, from opening till closing. And it honestly, it wasn't radio, but it made me so like, it's like those TV shows, right? All those films where like a guy's gotta get money for Christmas because he's gotta give like his family some present that they always wanted. I kind of felt like that. I was like, fuck it, I'm like, why am I here? Like, I don't want to hear that. Like, Mariah Carey is lit, right? I don't want to listen to her every day. Like, the Jackson 5 is okay, but every day, like the same one. It didn't even have like 2 or 3 playlists they could rotate from. And yeah, I think for a customer, it's like, oh wow, this is like a nice touch. But for me, it was like, this is just soul crushing, thing. Like, it's absolutely soul crushing. Like, I don't want this. I don't want this at all. You turn it off. Oh, like I used to really like cherish those times before opening hours where there was just no music. I'm like, oh, thank God for that. Like, literally, I wouldn't even listen to music at that time. I was just so happy with the silence. So yeah, no, I'm definitely with you on that one. I hate like radio music in the workplace.
Yeah, I definitely think it's something more workplaces should do. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, there's going to be so much change in offices, isn't there? Like the work environment when we do eventually go back. So maybe that'll be something that we see. Yeah. In terms of like allowing you to listen to your own music as opposed to the radio.
Yeah, of course.
That's also, yeah.
Actually, now we're speaking on this topic. I guess when it comes to like mental health and music, you do hear, especially when like artists are like, in the morbid sense, they die or they're in rehab, they're in a bit of a way, right? But due to that, them being in that kind of mental headspace, it leads to really, really good music for some people. So I know you hear a lot of the time, when people talk about The Weeknd, it's like, oh, like there's that joke where it's like, when The Weeknd breaks up with his spouse,
it's toxic.
It's like, oh, we're gonna get some good music now. And, people really look forward to that. And
I know.
Yeah, so do I guess the question to you is, do you think like there is something to that where it's like, if I'm in such a shit state of mind, but then I put it into something like music, does it really just lead to like amazing music that couldn't be done otherwise?
I mean, yes, to an extent. To an extent, because music's just like you're telling a story, and the best stories, the best books, best TV shows are like they're intense, aren't they? They kind of express strong emotions. So that's why there's some truth to obviously saying, when The Weeknd's like he's just broken up with like whoever he's dating at the moment, he's like going back to the parties in Toronto again. He's like, oh, we're going to get another like House of Balloons type song again. Yeah. So there's truth to it, yes, because his music objectively subjectively is better when he's going through those types of things, but it's toxic if you're like actively asking for that.
Yeah.
If you're on social media like calling it out, being like, yes, here we go. Because I think there's definitely a responsibility, like as the consumer, as a fan, to not be encouraging the kind of like negative behavior, as we would with our friends. I think we need to kind of take some responsibility for that too, because you see too many artists. You talk about like the 27 Club, and I know we'll talk about that in a couple of weeks when we talk about Grey Area and Sunflowers, which I mean I know that's one of your favorite songs in the album, but like there's such a prevalence of like depression and drug use and mental health within the music industry. So I think when we're like romanticizing that aspect of it, then there's something's really got to change there.
No, 100%. I think, look, just thinking back to what you just said, I was just thinking right now, and one of my favorite albums is Earl Sweatshirt's I Don't Like Shit, I Don't Go Outside.
Yeah.
Honestly, like super love that record. And obviously anyone who's listened to that record, you listen to that and you're like, damn, like this guy's in a really bad state. But the art that came from that state is like, wow, like, okay, I think you can be in a position where it's like, okay, I really want you to get help and get better, but thank you for kind of using that kind of state you were in to produce this. Yeah, because and I think the reason why people love it so much is because we're still in a time where it's a bit taboo to kind of talk about being in a shit way. So it just doesn't happen often. So a lot of music is just people kind of avoiding that feeling, or just saying, oh, get rid of the bad feelings, it's gonna be fine, kind of thing. Like a lot of songs are like that. When you get someone like, no, I feel shit, and to be honest, I don't know if there's gonna be a solution from this, and you're like, I feel that way sometimes. This kind of relates back to what we were saying last week about how like you listen to music that you relate to. So I think we do need that music to just kind of balance out the conversation, but again, at the same time, there's a ethical argument to be had. Like, okay, like, if you listen to this type of music and then let's say the artist kills himself, it's like, was it worth it? I mean,
no, I agree. I think there's, like you're saying, there's a fine line between ensuring that there's a space in the music market for that type of music and encouraging artists, or creating an environment where artists who are going through that, who are struggling with mental health, can then express that musically. There's a difference between doing that and then saying we want them to stay in a situation where they're depressed, or we want them to stay in a situation where they're like self-harming or kind of like anxious, stressed, whatever it is. There's a definite like fine line between that. I think, like one of my favorite artists, Mac Miller, like he obviously, died from, I think it was an accidental drug overdose, right? And one of his like last album, not the posthumous one, but his album, Swimming, was again like a kind of like anthology of his depression, his situation. And I think there was such a good response to that album. So there's definitely a place, and there should be a place for music about that. So go on.
No, I think I was gonna say because I was again while you're saying this, it's kind of nice when they kind of go the other way. So another example is Danny Brown. So he's
Yeah,
kind of I think he's laid off the drugs now, isn't he? I think he has.
I think it seems so. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because he had his album last year. Was it You Know What I'm Saying? No, that's actually the name of the album.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I think yeah, because he literally went from what was it, Atrocity Exhibition, which was like full on like drug induced. Like there's there's no
Mhm.
two ways about that one. And again,
Yeah,
you can't be like you know what it is like you imagine it, right? So Danny Brown's in the studio, right? He's making his music, and then the record label comes in and he's like, yeah, look, I brought in like another bag of Adderall because just say music like you can't do that, can you? Like you just gotta like make do with what you have. Like you're not gonna tell Danny Brown to go back to popping pills just because the music he made for him was lit. Like you cannot do that. But then I think if you are truly a great artist, then I think there's still ways to kind of make good music without having to be depressed. Like, and it's kind of hard for those type of artists, especially when you kind of make your name as a depressed rapper. Like, that's the moody side of like hip hop or R&B, and it's like you're allowed to be both. Sometimes they're not even meaning to; they're just literally just kind of talking about how they feel. So I do like it when they kind of like turn around and like say, okay, you know what, I was going through that, but life's better, and the music's still good.
yeah, yeah.
I wish Chance the Rapper did that because you go from acid rap, which again, if you listen to the album, that he is not joking with that title. And then he went to no, Thomas, he did do that with Coloring Book. He kind of he went from acid rap to Coloring Book, and the
Mm.
quality of the music didn't change. So I think also it was different, but I think you can still enjoy the music. So I think there's still a way for people to kind of enjoy the artist even though they're not making that type of music, for sure.
Yeah,
Uh,
because there's. Yeah, I mean, I know we're criticizing his album right at the beginning, but like, that wasn't because he was happy. Just to clarify, that was just because it was a terrible album.
yeah. Oh,
Um,
the big day, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think also what we were saying about like the pressure of artists like The Weeknd, the first artist you mentioned, the pressure to like reproduce what first made you successful, like reproduce the conditions again. I guess something you see it kind of a lot in especially rap and hip hop music is the kind of artists who produced the classics when they were, they weren't rich. They were in kind of like situations of either kind of like drug dealing or of poverty or like run-ins with gangs, things like that. They produced the classics then, and then they've become rich and successful, and they've moved away from that. And now they're kind of stuck because they're like, well, where's the narrative? Like, am I just going to keep, making money off of my stories when I was a youngster? Like, how do you transition away from that and still make good music? Because you saw, obviously, like Jay-Z's most recent album, which I'm just going to get it in there, 50 cents, called, I think, golf cart music or like golf club music. Like, that was an album which didn't have any kind of, or like too many references to his kind of like drug dealing past, but it was still, I don't know what your impressions of the album, but I thought it was still a great album after like a number of listens.
Yeah.
So I think, there's a fine line. I think that's why probably a lot of hip hop artists don't make it past 35 in terms of success. They're not continuing to like spew out like classics. What would you say about that? Am I chatting rubbish or?
No, I think there's something to that as well. I think just to even add on that, sometimes it's like someone that never even intended to become artists. Like, there's definitely, not to name too many names, but like, there's definitely some artists where you hear what they're saying and it's like, they're literally just kind of spilling it out. Like, they're not trying to be super technical. They're not trying to be the best out. I think that's why exactly kind of alludes to your point of saying like they kind of burn out by 35 because this was never intended to be a career. They just didn't know how to express what they felt. And actually, no, I'm going to say it. So, I think that's kind of, if you look at Isaiah Rashad's career, right? So he had Sylvia Demo and then The Sun's Tirade, both amazing albums. But
Yeah.
again, it's in that same mood. And maybe, and also it's been like 4 years since his last album. And again, I'm pretty sure a whole lot of shit's happened to him, and that was the point. But what if he's not in that point to make what the artist like him to make?
Yeah.
You know, to a certain extent, Bryson Tiller, like his music is not super depressing, but it's definitely moody. And he's married now. You know, he's not talking about girls he's trying to get or girls he lost. Like he has the girl that he wants. So how does he talk about that without making it sound corny? So yeah, it's kind of, they do just kind of like hit a roadblock where it's like, okay, shit, like now people expect me to kind of keep doing this, and you know, this was just something I did for fun. Like literally, sometimes that can just happen. So yeah,
I think that's, you know, it's impressive then when they do that, when you get like a Nas who's come back with like one of the better albums of the year.
Yeah.
After like so many years of, I mean, like his previous album, what was it, Nazir in 2017? Like that was not kind of the Nas that we know, and he's come back at the age of 40 something and brought out an excellent album that's relevant as well. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely a mark of a great artist that when you have a period of longevity attached to it, I think more and more people are kind of agreeing to that notion that Jay-Z is the best, because again, Jay-Z is not, he's not Lupe Fiasco with the words, but he's been around for such a long time, like what, 24 years now. And to still be able to kind of go toe to toe whoever is the best right now, that is not easy, because you still got to talk about it, and you know, you're bidding and you still got to kind of relate to people, you know, the 99.9% of us who aren't. So that's what I was saying, not really.
See, I guess one other thing I was wanting to talk about was like music as like healing. You know, like we're talking about obviously mental health. For the artist, it can sometimes be like cathartic if they can express how they're feeling in art, and we can express how we're feeling by listening to their art. So whether like you see music as healing for you, and like, can you, I guess the question I have for you is like, can you map, like, say look at like the past 5 years or something, can you map your like emotional state of mind, or your kind of like struggles or mental health or whatever, by the type of music you've listened to year to year? Because I mean, I certainly can. I don't know whether that's something you also can do.
100%. Too many albums to name. That do that for me, where it's just, it's definitely kind of, because you know what's funny? So I don't know if you get, you probably do, where it's like people kind of say, oh, you know, like a lot about music, which is great, but I feel sometimes I feel like that's just kind of the lie. I feel like music knows a lot about us. And, no, honestly, because you listen to music, you're like, wow, like, you know, this is exactly what I needed. Again, Isaiah Rashad, Kendrick Lamar, Earl Sweatshirt, I feel like all these artists definitely give me music where I think there was maybe something to do within my life where maybe I just didn't have the answer for it. For example, because it's kind of dealing with a lot of change. I think something like To Pimp a Butterfly helps with that. And I think even though I liked the album when it initially came out, I think when I started to, like, you know, develop in my early 20s, I think that's when it hit the hardest. I was like, okay, I know exactly what he's trying to talk about here. And obviously, I'm not famous. You know, I'm not a millionaire. I've never had a platinum selling record. But him talking about what he's trying to do to deal with those emotions definitely helps me process my own a lot better and think, okay, so what are the decisions here? And how do I deal with this? What's making me kind of feel this way? You know? So, yeah, 100%. I think it can definitely be used to heal, but at the same time, I feel like it has to hit you at the right time. Like, you know, sometimes, you know, what you need could be, you know, written out, but if you're not in the headspace to receive it, it's just not going to come. And I think that's the whole kind of definition of a album growing with you, because sometimes you're just not ready to kind of take in, or, you know, it can go the other way. Sometimes it was what you needed at that point. So I think the way I think, if I think about Drake's So Far Gone, and that came out when I was like in year 9 or so, And I think at that time, I was like, this is exactly what I need to hear. And I loved every lyric he was saying. I loved them. And I grew up and I'm like, it doesn't really hit the same. And yeah, it can go both ways. Where sometimes like once the healing is done, or once that period of growth has completed, then it's like, okay, the album's done its purpose. But I think you don't want to get to the point where you start thinking the album's shit. It's like, no, the album's not shit. It's just kind of like you kind of took the message that you needed from it and you moved on. So yeah, just to answer the question, like 100%. There's been several times where I've definitely kind of felt a certain way, and then I've just heard a song. It's like, right, okay. I'm not saying I'm gonna feel better tomorrow, but okay, I see how he's managing that, or I see how she's managing that, and I can kind of understand that. And maybe there's a solution, or maybe there's a way kind of out of how I'm feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think, like you're saying, when you listen to music one time, or like for a period of time, and you've taken it in, and then you come back to it a year later, and it doesn't hit the same because you've taken the message. I definitely think that. Like I definitely listened to a lot of like Mac Miller in 2018, like a lot. And yeah, I mean, I still love him, but definitely going back to some of his songs, they don't hit the same way right now. And I think that's definitely a case of like tracking where I am in my life with, like, you can see growth, I guess, that way, can't you? When you kind of listen to music that used to be so relevant and used to kind of like affirm how you were feeling, you then go back to it, and it's kind of, it's nice, I guess. Yeah, it's nice to see growth. I think I've actually got so like when you talk about music as healing, I was reading a little bit before this podcast, so I thought I'd make a good maths reference for you as a maths graduate.
Okay.
But Pythagoras, he actually used to kind of prescribe like music as like to treat emotional and like physical like illnesses and ailments and stuff like that. So it's definitely pretty evident that like music heals, and that, I mean, Pythagoras, you'll probably know better than me, but like what, 2,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, it's therapeutic, and it can kind of, even if you need to wallow for a while, like if I've definitely got some playlists where it's like, I'm just going to go and I'm going to be indulgent and feel sad and like feel how I feel. You come out of it at the other end and you listen to it again a month later and you're like, wow, okay, I'm not in that same place again.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, Pythagoras I didn't know about Pythagoras, but he's definitely a wildcat. Like, if you look into his history, he's a manic man. Like, I think, honestly, like, okay, shout out to him for the theorem, but I'm pretty sure that was just by chance. 'Cause I think he tried to build a whole religion off of that whole.
So here you go. See, I knew like one fact about him, and now you can actually tell me what
honestly, like, no, I'm just saying, like, there's definitely something. He's basically like the ancient version of Freud, right? So if he told me music was healing, I'll just talk to him and be like, right, mate, look. There was actually a time, right? There was a time, I think it was like about almost exactly like 3 years ago, right? I was in the club and I just was not in the mood to be in the club. Just wasn't in the mood. And obviously, one of my personal favorite genres of music is bashment. And then the bashment was playing, and normally that would be a time for me to turn up, have a lot of fun. But because I just was not feeling, like, I was just in it. I just wasn't. I was literally just there, like, it's just the kind of that meme where all the fun's happening around you and you're just sitting there.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll put it in a very PG way. So it's just like, sometimes it's like, what? Sometimes it's just I do kind of still stand with the beliefs where you just need to be in a position to receive it, and sometimes you're not. Sometimes you just don't let yourself kind of come out or however you're feeling, even though that might even be like the best thing for you at that time. So. Yeah, it all just depends, really. It all just depends.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that kind of wraps up our kind of mental health music segment, right?
Yeah, that closes episode 2 of the Vinyl Collective. What do you guys think about music and mental health? Has music kind of helped you kind of get through something? do you think is, do you think it's like, like witchcraft? If you listen to too much depressing music, you're going to feel shit. Like, yeah, I'd love to hear what people think about this one. I think it's quite an interesting topic. I think it's an important topic because obviously music's such a big part of our lives.
Definitely get in touch and tell us kind of what we were saying earlier on. Like, we don't see music as particularly able to like completely change your kind of like emotions or your feelings. Like, it can alter it, but if if you're disagreeing with us today, let us know. Tell us the kind of artists as well you're listening to in particular situations. Definitely interested to hear that.
Yeah, let us know about the artists that helped you or didn't help. As always, send these to vinylcollectivepod@gmail.com. Just say again, this episode will be on all podcasting platforms. So I know I had people messaging me saying, I had to download Spotify, just listen to this episode. You don't have to worry about that no more. You can listen to it on wherever the fuck you want to listen to. Again, thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week.
We will, but also before we finish, we're going to do our kind of 2 songs each.
Yes, we are.
So last week, we were planning to do 2 new songs each, but as it happens, it works well. We've got a playlist on Spotify called Now and Then, where each week we kind of pick 2 new songs and 2 kind of older songs between us, and we're going to make a playlist and just kind of accumulate those throughout the years. Tope, have you got a kind of new song and an older song for us?
Yep. So I'm gonna give a song that came out earlier this year, so I still think it's quite fresh. So it's Freddie Gibbs, God Is Perfect.
Okay,
that's
very good.
So fucking good. Like, if you're driving or you're in the gym, play that song. Message me saying thank you. I'll reply saying you're welcome.
Is that
that's how
the one with?
That's just him.
Yeah, which is the Rick Ross one?
No, that's the Scotty Beam one. I do like that one as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Apparently Scotty Beam was because I'm a follower of Scotty Beam. She was meant to be in that episode, and she rejected the offer because she said it was because of coronavirus, but you can never be too sure about these things. The second song I have for you, it's gonna be Dutch Avelli, Only If You Knew, and Dutch Avelli is an artist that I kind of jumped on quite late because obviously I don't listen to too much drill, but man, this guy, like this guy, he has a certain energy to him that is just so unique, even for drill. Like, he made me feel like I murdered someone. Like, did I do something back in the day? Like, he's just so aggressive and it works so well. Like, Stefflon Don's, I don't know if you know, but he's Stefflon Don's brother. So I didn't know that.
Okay. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he should have been introduced to the world a lot sooner whilst he was in prison. So hopefully he doesn't go back in. But that song came out last year, so that's Only If You Knew. Super banger. So what about you, John? What's your 2 songs?
So my recent song is off Alicia Keys' new album. So I'm gonna go with 3 Hour Drive. It's a song with Sampha. It's pretty slow, sensual.
Alicia Keys in 2020. Big risk.
I know. Who would have thought?
Big risk.
It's a good song. I haven't listened to the whole album, but I listened to. She did a colour shows of the song with Sampha wasn't on it. It was actually with Sir. But it's a good song.
Cool.
I respect it. My kind of older song is you mentioned him earlier, Lupe Fiasco. Is Adoration of the Magi.
Ooh, good song.
Which, I mean, to any Lupe Fiasco heads out there it's something. It's layered, and it takes a lot of listens to understand everything he's saying. I listened to a kind of video on YouTube the other day where it wasn't one of those like classic rap videos because I hate them, but it was someone just talking through all the ridiculous album references that he has on it. So he's referencing all of these different famous music albums that have had like babies on the front cover.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh, you're just a baby," and he's kind of refreshing.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah. He makes like a Drake reference. He does a Nas reference. He has a Nirvana reference. Lupe's mind works in mysterious ways.
Very mysterious.
And it's also pretty relevant at the moment because he's kind of trying to bait Kendrick into a bit of a...
Yeah, I was going to mention him. I was like, oh, we've got a few minutes left. But no, I think that's something that we'll talk about when we see each other. But yeah.
We will. Cool. The Battle of the Wordsmiths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is it for episode 2. That's the Vinyl Collector. And yeah, we out.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in.